The church parking lot is overflowing. Cars line the street for blocks, headlights cutting through the humid Missouri night. People move toward the red brick building in hushed urgency. Wheelchairs, walkers, oxygen tanks, families clutching hands, hope moving faster than reason. Inside, the sanctuary is packed beyond capacity. Folding chairs crowd the aisles. The air is thick with sweat, perfume, and anticipation. The choir hums softly, a low spiritual murmur that never quite resolves into a song. At the front of the church, a woman sits slumped in a wheelchair. She is gaunt, trembling. Her hands curl uneasily in her lap. Tubes disappear beneath her blouse. Her husband kneels beside her, gripping the armrest so tightly his knuckles have gone white. The preacher approaches. He moves slowly, reverently. One hand rests on the back of the wheelchair. The other holds a worn Bible pressed flat against his chest. The congregation quiets. You can hear someone crying in the back. The preacher speaks softly, scripture, prayer, reassurance. He leans close to the woman, his voice barely audible now. His hand cups her cheek. Then he kisses her, open-mouthed, lingering. There is a sharp intake of breath from somewhere in the crowd. The woman convulses. Her body arches violently, tubes clattering to the floor. Her husband shouts her name as ushers move forward, but before they can reach her, she gasps, sucks in air like she's been drowning, and stands. The wheelchair topples backwards. The woman steadies herself, eyes wide, hands shaking as she looks down at her own legs. She takes a step, then another. The church explodes. People scream, applaud, fall to their knees. Strangers clutch each other, sobbing. The choir erupts into song, voices cracking with joy. The preacher staggers slightly, gripping the pulpit to steady himself. For just a moment, his smile falters. A shadow passes behind his eyes. Then the woman throws her arms around him, clinging, whispering thank you over and over, her fingers digging into his cloak as though she's afraid to let go. High above the sanctuary, the lights flicker. The congregation never notices. They are too busy believing. You receive an email in your inbox, your official FBI inbox from Miriam Cortez. The email reads, Agents, you are hereby assigned to investigate a series of unexplained medical remissions reported in Redfield, Missouri, a town of approximately 18,000 residents located in the southwestern region of the state. Since early last month, area hospitals and private practitioners have documented a statistically improbable increase in recoveries involving patients previously diagnosed with terminal or incurable medical conditions, including late-stage cancers, progressive neurological disorders, and severe autoimmune diseases. Preliminary review indicates that all known cases share a common point of contact. New Covenant Baptist Church of Redfield, where recent faith healing services led by Senior Pastor Daniel Whitaker have drawn rapidly increasing attendance from both within and outside the community. While the Department of Justice does not investigate religious practice, several factors necessitate federal review. Sudden symptom reversal, absent medical explanation, patients declining follow-up diagnostics or continued treatment, reports of heightened emotional dependency on Pastor Whitaker, allegations of coercive or cult-adjacent behavior among church staff and volunteers. Local law enforcement has requested federal assistance under the premise of potential fraud, public endangerment, or unlawful coercion, though no criminal charges have been filed to date. Your objectives are as follows. Determine whether criminal activity or fraud is present. Assess any biological, medical, or public health risks. Evaluate the potential for mass harm or civil disturbance. Submit recommendations for further Bureau action. You're authorized to coordinate with the Redfield Police Department, Mercy Plains Regional Hospital, Missouri Department of Health, if required. This matter has begun to attract regional media attention. You are advised to proceed with discretion. Any conclusions, affirmative or dismissive, should be supported by verifiable findings. Travel arrangements have been finalized. You're to report to Redfield by 0900 hours tomorrow morning. I expect your preliminary assessment within 48 hours of arrival. Miriam Cortez, Assistant Director, Federal Bureau of Investigation. So that's what you got. And if you need to make any preparations before heading into Missouri, you basically got a day, to kind of prepare if need be.
I probably would take the time to see if I could gather some information about Pastor Daniel Whitaker, um, and also maybe see if there are any news spots that have brought him up in the last few months. I'd be interested in knowing what he was doing before the faith healings started becoming
Okay.
apparent in the public eye.
The information that you are able to get on Whitaker is his age at 58 years old. He has been the pastor of Redfield Baptist for the past 7 years. Graduated from Ozark Bible Institute. Served as an Army combat medic in his early 20s. He's widely regarded as compassionate and charismatic. Runs food drives, addiction counseling, and prison ministries. His wife died about 15 years ago in a car accident. They don't have any children. And you are seeing some reports of these healings that have kind of begun in some of the tabloids initially, but some major news sources, especially on the internet, are now starting to kind of pick up on it. And he's definitely getting a little bit more national attention. Make an investigation roll for me, please.
Mhm. Sure. Just 1 second here.
Hmm,
Hey.
that's pretty good.
Mhm.
So, with that roll, you're able to dig considerably deeper into Pastor Whitaker. And you discover that 2 years ago, Whitaker traveled to Kenya for a mission trip with two church members. Guy by the name of Caleb Shaw and Mason Carter. While he was there, Whitaker was hospitalized briefly after an accident during a safari excursion. And medical records, you're really not able to get any of the medical records from Kenya, other than the fact that he was hospitalized. But prior to going on this trip to Kenya, Whitaker had been diagnosed with terminal brain cancer before that trip. And upon his return, doctors reported complete remission.
Hmm. Well, that seems like it could be pertinent. Okay. I suppose it probably took a pretty good amount of time during the day to get to that level of detail about him. So I
Mhm.
think at that point, maybe all um, Sam would have time left to do is maybe start working up his on his Kenyan lore and maybe trying to correlate a little bit about well, what's medical practices are there, and you know, folk as well as science practices. But I'm not sure how much time he would have left to really pull that information before getting on his flight and meeting sites. So might end up being a research in progress.
Okay, so kind of doing a little bit of research into kind of Kenyan lore. This is stuff that I didn't prepare for, so I'm kind of cheating a little bit here, just for the
Oh,
record.
you're fine. I've been there.
Um, there are some folklore elements that kind of come up in your research, and I'm going to kind of keep it with that big 19 that you rolled, or the 23 with your bonuses there, to give you the information that we have. Um, there are certain folklore that allude to spirits that are believed to enter or leave through the mouth or breath, ritual healers, um, and possessed individuals that feel heat in their chest or throat. There is an entity, an East African spirit entity, that is really more connected to Zanzibar and Tanzania, called the Papabawa. This is a parasitic spirit that possesses humans. Victims behave strangely and become devoted to the spirit. The spirit spreads through contact between people, and communities sometimes become collectively obsessed with it. And then there is another called Tokoloshe, which is a malicious spirit that inhabits or rides human hosts, causes illness and strange behavior, and can be controlled by someone who commands it. That is a little bit more South African myth. Um, that's about as close to Kenya that you can come to anything that really kind of sounds maybe close to, what potentially, could be a mythological kind of background to this. Now, when it comes to like researching the hospitals and all that sort of stuff, you are probably able to at least get a little bit more information from the Kenyan hospital, and his condition was listed as severe dehydration and neurological shock after being found unconscious near a river.
Okay. Okay. That seems like a really good, promising start to
Mhm.
to armchair research. Um, cool. I think armed with that, he'll pack his bags and try to make his flight. Hopefully, things are not delayed. uh,
Um, you guys end up arriving at the airport there in Missouri. You find Agent Site's already there, just kind of waiting for you there at the baggage claim. And he's got a cup of coffee for you. And he said that he's got a rental already sitting outside, but we've got a little bit before we got to head into town. We've got about an hour or so before we actually have to be there. So he kind of bends your ear first and says, "If I know you well enough, I'm sure you've probably already done your research. What are your thoughts?"
oh, well, so that we don't have to go through everything again. Uh,
Hmm.
Basically, Sam recaps what he's found out so far about Whitaker, and about some of the more abstract thoughts with regards to the Kenyan lore that he had picked up on. And after he's given his rundown on those things, he says, "I I think that with regardless of whether something is coming from a position of being spiritual versus a scientific explanation that hasn't necessarily been found yet, um, based off of some of the findings from what we've been told to look for, cult behavior,
Hmm.
and at least one of these um, particular folklore explanations having a kind of collectivistic mind to it. It probably would behoove us to be um, thoughtful of that as we're questioning. Um, Try not to ruffle feathers. Uh, and try not to make ourselves overt enemies, um, if it's possible to avoid. Um,
Yeah, and I've had some experience with, religious cults over the years, especially recently now that I've been down in New Orleans. And we've dealt with a couple of, like traveling faith healer uh, type uh, organizations, down there. I've had two instances where I've dealt with them, and typically, I mean, these things are usually kind of a sham. And, most of them are typically not based out of a home-based church like this. So that's a little bit more rare. Usually people will set up a tent, come into a place, do a couple of services, collect their money, and then head out. Um, 90% of the quote unquote healings that they do are setups. It's usually the same people that they just bring into the community, and, miraculously heal, their ills, and then bring up certain individuals from the community that, are not terminally ill, but have certain maladies that through the power of suggestion, at least for the day or two that they are there, are able to kind of convince them that they, have been healed. And, it's there's a gray area here because we're dealing with faith and religion and people's beliefs and donations and all of that sort of stuff, where a lot of times it can really be really difficult to kind of nail it down as being illegal activity. Are they taking advantage of people? Yes. Are these people giving of their money freely? Yes. So it can be very difficult to kind of nail them down, to something that is against the law. Um, Now I did a little bit of research before, coming down here myself, kind of looking at some of the medical records from the hospital there in Redfield. Spoke with a couple of physicians, a couple of nurses, and according to what I'm hearing, it sounds like whatever is happening there seems to be fairly legit. These doctors are unable to explain, why their patients are suddenly going into remission. There's really only one individual that I have found that has actually come back in to really be looked at thoroughly by his physicians. Um, and his doctors are just completely shocked at what's going on with this guy. Um, they say that he has taken up residence with the church, um, and has kind of walked away from his community. He's not really from Redford, but he's from one of the neighboring counties. His family's expressed some concern, about him, kind of being on his own after being wheelchair bound for as long as he was. But the guy apparently broke his back several years prior to and was confined to a wheelchair, and now he's up and walking again.
hmm. You wouldn't happen to have noticed like the earliest representative case of a healing happening, like who that is. I feel like talking to some of these people, if it's possible,
Hmm.
might be a good idea. And I'd be curious to see if the earliest person who was healed is having the same, you know, impact still on their life as the most recent person who was healed.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would probably be worth trying to track down. I don't have any information on that myself, but that certainly might be worth asking around.
Okay, that sounds good. I suppose if you don't mind doing the driving to get us there, I might can try to follow up that lead while we're on the way into town some, especially if you already have a contact the with the hospital that you've been working with via phone.
All right. Yeah. Why don't you make a, let's see here. What could we roll instead of investigation? Is there anything else that might fit? Yeah, I mean, I think probably investigation's probably going to be it again in
Okay.
this case, really. The only other thing would be social sciences, but I mean, I think your investigation is higher than that anyway. So,
Yeah.
um, okay, so you got a 21 there. The best that you can kind of tell, it looks like perhaps the first instance of this where Pastor Whitaker was maybe credited with a healing of a sort probably dates back to roughly about 2 years ago. And it deals with one of Whitaker's higher ups within the church, a man by the name of Thomas Pike. According to the records, he was brought in to the hospital after claiming that he had had some pressure in his chest, pain shooting down his arm, and had apparently fallen to the church floor uh, and was assumed to be a victim of a heart attack. Um, Pastor Whitaker told the emergency room that he began CPR, and Whitaker or Thomas was kind of brought back. He said that he felt that Mr. Pike uh, was no longer breathing. He was able to bring him back, got him to the ER. Once he got to the ER, they said that they could find no signs of a heart attack. There's no damage, no blockage, nothing. And according to some local news reports, Pike credited Whitaker with saving his life, and it was the laying on of hands that brought him back to life.
Thank you, sir. Relay that information after it's been relayed to me sites so that he's working from the same paper.
Hmm.
Um, and so just thinking maybe go into the police to announce our presence first before we start going around their town and knocking on doors. you know, maybe stirring up their community a little bit.
Yeah, probably not a bad idea. It is a Sunday, by the way.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
So we end up rolling into town around 9 a.m. And Redfield announces itself the way 100 Midwestern towns will usually do by what it used to be. The highway narrows as you guys pass a rusted water tower painted with Redfield, home of the railmen. The last word kind of flaking badly enough that it looks like rail me.
oh my goodness.
The old rail spur cuts through the town, but the freight depot has been boarded up for years. Grain silos loom in the distance like concrete tombstones. A few new businesses, fast food, pharmacy, budget hotel, cling to the highway exit while the real town sits a mile deeper in. Main Street is 4 blocks long and trying hard. Uh, Brick storefronts from the 1920s house a barber, a diner, a thrift store, and two churches within sight of one another. Handwritten signs in the shop windows read, Welcome revival visitors and service Sundays and Wednesdays. All are healed. There are more cars parked along the street than a town this size should reasonably support. The police station sits just off Main, a squat 2-story building that used to be a post office. The American flag out front snaps sharply in the breeze, and two cruisers are parked out front, both clean and recently washed. Inside, the station smells of burnt coffee and industrial cleaner. Fluorescent lights hum overhead. The lobby is small, bulletin board covered in missing pet flyers, a cork board with community announcements, and more than a few church flyers thumbtacked over older notices. Behind the front desk, officers pause mid conversation when you enter, and they recognize the look of federal credentials before they're even shown. And a back door opens, revealing Police Chief Harold Vaughn. This guy's in his late 50s, tall but slightly stooped, with a build that suggests he used to be broader before the job narrowed him down. His uniform is worn but meticulously neat, creases sharp, badge polished. Gray hair is cut short, thinning at the crown. His face is lined in the way of someone who sleeps lightly and thinks a little bit too much. Gentlemen, Chief Vaughn, Redfield Police. Appreciate you fellas coming out on such short notice.
Well, thank you for bringing us out here. So,
Uh, yeah, go ahead.
looks like y'all have busy Sundays here. Do y'all have any kind of details that help with directing the traffic for either any of the churches out there?
Matter of fact, we do. Come on back. And he kind of walks you back, and you see that there's a another bulletin board in this conference room. It's got a kind of a scarred wooden table, mismatched chairs, and a bulletin board that says Revival Traffic Plan scrawled on top of it.
Mercy me, it's like a SWAT team planning there. Jeez.
Well, listen, I'll be straight with you. I don't know what all you've been briefed on, but we've got a situation that's rather sensitive. Emotions are running pretty high. Faith obviously is involved, which means anything we do is going to be scrutinized 6 ways from Sunday. Pastor Daniel Whitaker's church, New Covenant Baptist, has been running revival services for the past 3 weeks. Attendance has tripled. People are coming in from 2 counties over. We've had claims of faith healings, real ones, documented remission stuff that doctors can't explain. We also got 3 missing persons reports quietly withdrawn by family members after they returned to the fold. No charges, no complaints, just silence. All 3 of the missing have been located already. They've all taken up residence in a property owned by the church to be near Pastor Whitaker. Elizabeth Halcomb, Jerome Williams, and Sheila Moore. When he mentions those names, Sites kind of elbows you and says, Jerome Williams. That's one of the ones I was talking about, the one that I found.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, the chief continues, Miss Halcomb was stage 3 breast cancer. Williams was a paralysis victim from a car accident, and Moore was suffering from ALS. All 3 seem to be healed or in remission from their ailments. Jerome Williams was the only one inspected by the docs after the fact, and none of them can explain his sudden ability to walk again. The 2 women refuse to be seen, say they have the Lord to thank, and Pastor Whitaker. Now, I'm not saying there's a crime at that church. I'm saying if there is one, it's hiding behind a whole lot of belief.
Mhm. Mhm.
So your timing is impeccable. There's a service starting in about 45 minutes. Um, if you're going to understand what's happening here, I'd say you probably need to see it firsthand.
Do they have more than one service or just the one service?
There's usually 2 services on Sunday. My understanding is that they are not doing an evening service tonight because they've kind of changed their plans for this week, and that's kind of what we're prepping for here based on the bulletin board behind you there. Normally they do a Tuesday evening service, but their PR has kind of put something out to the public stating that there's going to be a big revival on Tuesday night this week. So we've got press, national agencies that are going to be moving in probably first thing tomorrow and setting up for the big revival that's going to happen on Tuesday night,
Gotcha.
which is kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to get somebody in here before all that shit hits the fan.
Right. That makes sense. Um, I agree with going ahead and getting a firsthand view of what's going on in the church. So that 45-minute away service sounds like a good one to attend. Sorry, I'm trying to like make some internal decisions real quick about the character
Hmm.
and their faith traditions that they follow or have been trained in. Um, Maybe that's something that can be serviced through dialogue while heading to the church. Um, but So just to double check um, with you, Chief Vaughn, have have there been any situations as of yet where the faith community itself has, other than traffic control, presented any kind of difficulties with being able to perform your job role at this point?
No, not really, other than like, we've had I bring up those missing persons probably for a reason. Um, they have not been hostile in any means, but other than Jerome, the two women, Elizabeth and Sheila, they've been a little more cautious and reserved around law enforcement, where they really don't want to talk to myself or my deputies. Um, but not standoffish, I guess, is probably maybe more what I would say. Um, they really don't want to answer questions. They don't want to really talk to us about it. They, claim, that they have been healed, and that's in the power of Pastor Whitaker and the Lord, and they don't need to answer mundane questions from law enforcement. Jerome's been a little bit more forthcoming about it, but even so, I think that our concern is, these three and a select group of others have all kind of taken up residence in a property owned by the church, which to me kind of smells of, the beginnings of, potential concerning activities. Now, we've not had any evidence of any kind of like arms gathering or anything like that, but the last thing we want is like a Waco situation here.
Right.
Um,
I do get that.
all three of these individuals have basically and not just these three. I mean, there have been others that haven't gone quote unquote missing for a certain period of time that have just decided to kind of walk away from their families and, join with the church and stay at this property.
Hmm. Okay.
And they say that they're doing so just in support of one another, in support of the community, and in support of Pastor Whitaker. And they claim not to have been coerced. They're saying that they're doing this of their own will, but I don't know. It just seems a little fishy to me.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Do those include, I think Caleb Shaw, Mason Carter, and is it Thomas Pike? Yeah, Thomas
Oh,
Pike.
okay. So you already know about um, Caleb and Mason, right?
I know that they exist. Beyond that, though, feel free to fill me in more.
Well, both of these guys have kind of security or military background.
Oh, okay.
Um, they've both been members of the church since they were, probably even before they were teenagers. And their families have, like a long history there at the church. But, after either going away to the military or, joining, whatever security force that they were involved with, have come back to the community, have come back to the church, and have been Whitaker's kind of right and left hand man since he left for his mission trip in Kenya. The two of them went with him to Kenya, and apparently were the ones that discovered him after whatever accident it was that happened, got him to a hospital there where he recovered, and they've been by his side ever since. And they are more than just ushers at the church, if you know what I mean.
I think I follow.
Um, despite, their military background and the security uh, backgrounds, both of those guys have been in some trouble here locally in their younger years. Nothing too serious, just kind of typical rough housing and, uh, nothing that really put them in jail, but they're a couple of tough hombres, if you get what I mean.
Mhm.
Um, Now, to my knowledge, I don't believe that they are staying at this property, but they are never far from Whitaker's side and have not been since he came back from Kenya. Um, his two higher ups within the church, Thomas Pike and Rachel Morrow, uh, I think Pike oversees the property and may actually be on the deed, but I'd have to double check that. Rachel Morrow manages the property. I think her office is actually located there. So I think yes, both of them have connections to it, but I don't think they live there on the property.
Okay. Okay. Might ask for a list of the people who do live on the property so we can correlate them with the people who have been healed that don't live on the property to make it easier to determine who it would be possible to talk to that's not necessarily right there statically located. Um, that's not something we need right this exact second.
I can probably get you a couple of names in addition to Elizabeth, Jerome, and Sheila. I know for a fact that they're there because of the missing persons reports that we've dealt with over the last several weeks. But we are aware of probably at least a half a dozen others, most of which are not from the community. Um, but you might be able to get either Pike or Morrow to get you their names.
Okay. All right. Well, you wouldn't happen to have a spare Bible on you, would you?
um, I assume you guys are probably going to be staying at the Roach Motel just outside of town. I'm sure they got one in the dresser drawer there.
Okay. I was thinking about the service that's about to happen, but hopefully they'll have some in their pews. So,
I can guarantee that they do. And probably for the low, low price of $15, you can probably get yourself one at the door.
ah. I'll go to Ollie's. You can get them for $2. Um, Sites, do you have any other questions you think we should ask at this time?
I think that covers it for me right now.
All right. Well, I look at the diagram showing the church traffic control, and I point and I say, "This is the one, right?" And
That's the
hopefully,
one.
all right. So looks like this is how we get there.
Let's go see a miracle, fellas.
um, while we were on the way, um, Sites, are you religious? It's just good to know before we walk in the door, I suppose, where each of us stands on that.
What now?
I ask Sites if Sites is religious. I don't ask
Um,
his faith, I just ask him if he is religious.
I would say I have a fairly strong background in the church. My mom was a pastor's assistant at a local church when I was growing up, and I spent a lot of time there with her. Um, And because of her involvement with that church and the community in general, she was a Christian educator. So she was well known within the community that I grew up. And I spent a lot of time not only at her church, but and I have to say our church because that was our home church. But I ended up going with her to other churches of different denominations growing up. And by the time I hit my teen years, I was doing some volunteer work. Mom put me up to it at some of the different churches in the area. But I think mom kind of grew to maybe regret that because I started to see some cracks in the foundation. And while mom's church was a Presbyterian church, um, but I did volunteer work with uh, a Methodist church, a Catholic church, a UCC. And while all of these denominations shared kind of the basic core Christian religion, all of them had a very different take on how they accessed their beliefs and what their beliefs were really based on and how they interpreted the Bible. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
And I began, I think, as a teenager to kind of question some of these interpretations. And when I verbalized that to my mom, it didn't go over real well. Um, and while there were those similarities, each denomination really believed that their interpretation of the scripture was the correct interpretation, and that the other denominations, while they respected their interpretations, they could point out discrepancies. So it was difficult for me to return to mom's core belief system after that. And I kind of got a little bit disheartened with the whole kind of political aspect of the church. Um, and then I joined the FBI and then experienced the things that I experienced very early on in my career. And here we are, uh, many years later, reopening the X-Files. So if that gives you any kind of inkling on where I stand right now, do I believe that there is something out there? Uh, eh, yes. Can I explain what it is? Like many of our X-Files, I cannot. That may be more information than you were actually reaching for.
No, that's great. That gives an idea what conversation, if nothing else, that gives you an idea what kind of conversations you might be prepared to have when we walk through those sanctuary doors.
Mm.
uh, okay. Um, and I guess in the same same vein, being prepared on my end. Um, let's see, this is out of character. I think that considering the language that my character is using, he has enough of a knowledge about Christianity that it would probably make sense that he has some personal familiarity with that. Um, yeah, okay. I'm non-denominational, uh, so I make it to church a little more often than Christmases and Easter's. Um, but the job takes you where the job takes you, and sometimes you can't take a Sabbath off. Um, so, but yeah, I even though I can't prove the belief I have, I I do have a faith, um, and have some knowledge of workings. Like, for instance, I wouldn't call you a deconstructed Christian because it doesn't sound like you've necessarily completely eschewed the idea,
Hmm.
but the concept you're open to. If you found something that seemed to prove a thing, then you'd be willing to believe it. But you haven't found a thing that proves a thing, which makes sense because it's called faith. Um, but
I think
okay,
that's probably a good way to describe it.
but all right. So that gives us an idea where we stand on that. Let me write that over here on my little notes about Sam.
All right, so
So,
we'll fast forward here to the church. New Covenant Baptist sits on the edge of town where farmland gives way to trees, a broad white painted structure with a modest steeple and a gravel lot that has long since overflowed. Cars line the roadside in both directions, license plates from neighboring counties and farther glint in the fading light. As you step out of the car, the sound reaches you first. Hymns. The doors open and music pours out. Full choir, organ, clapping hands. The air feels charged like the moment before a summer storm breaks. Inside, the church is packed. Pews meant for 200 hold closer to four. Folding chairs line the aisles and the walls. Latecomers stand shoulder to shoulder near the back. Ushers in dark suits move with practiced efficiency, guiding people into any scrap of space that will hold them. The smell is unmistakable. Old wood, sweat, perfume, and something metallic beneath it all. Um, you guys end up squeezing into some pews near the middle of the sanctuary, and Chief Vaughn leans in just enough to be heard over the music. Front row, left side, woman with the cane, bone cancer, 6 months ago. 2 rows back, guy with the oxygen tank, COPD. Docs are giving him a year. And he shifts again. Teen girl with a scarf, lupus. And over there, close to the stage, is our 3 former missing persons, Elizabeth, Jerome, and Sheila. Every person that he has pointed out to you looks alert, focused on the pupil uh, as the choir begins to swell. Music is lyrics about redemption, suffering, and deliverance, and they repeat until the words blur into emotion. The congregants sway, hands rise, some people cry openly. Then the music cuts sharply. Silence drops like a held breath. Side door opens near the pulpit, and Pastor Daniel Whitaker steps out. He's not flamboyant, no shimmering suit, no headset mic, just a white suit and tie, Bible tucked under one arm, and the reaction is immediate. Applause, cheers, people stand as one. Pastor Whitaker raises a hand, not commanding, just calm, and the noise fades. Please, sit. You didn't come here to see me. You came here because you're hurting. The crowd murmurs in agreement. Pastor Whitaker's sermon is measured and thoughtful, scripture woven with stories of illness, despair, and quiet moments of faith. He speaks about listening to God, to one another, to the body when it cries out. Make a perception check. 22. Since you are not just a Easter and Christmas attendee, um, you've experienced your fair amount of sermons. Now, this may not be you're non-denominational. This is definitely Southern Baptist. Um, but you're familiar enough with the approach of a sermon. With your perception check, you kind of notice that Pastor Whitaker is scanning the room, that he's not just, addressing individuals in the crowd. He's pinpointing individuals as he's going. It's almost like he's looking through them. And halfway through the service, Whitaker closes his Bible. There's a woman here tonight who's been told she'll never walk again without help. A ripple of breath moves through the church. You're tired of being brave, and you're tired of pretending that cane doesn't feel heavier every day. And the woman in the front row stiffens. Whitaker meets her eyes. Would you come forward, darling? Hands help her up, and she moves slowly, leaning hard on the cane as she makes her way down the aisle. The church is utterly silent now. Whitaker takes her hands. He bows his head, not in show, but something that looks almost intimate. You don't have to be afraid. He leans in, close. His lips brush her cheek, almost a kiss, just at the corner of her mouth. The woman gasps, and as she takes that breath, the pastor's mouth covers hers. Her body seizes just for a moment, then she straightens. The cane clatters to the floor. A heartbeat passes. Then she takes a step. Another. Her face crumples as realization hits, and the church erupts. People shout, cry, fall to their knees. A woman sobs openly as Whitaker steps back, hands raised not in triumph, but humility. Give thanks, but not to me. Make an insight check. 12. What you see in front of you seems to be very believable. Her posture is different. Her breathing is different. There's no tremor. There's no sign of pain. Either this woman is an incredibly good actress, or whatever he did worked.
Mm.
And the sermon concludes soon after. Whitaker offers a final prayer, one hand pressed to his chest, the other hand up in the air, eyes closed. The choir resumes softly as he steps off the stage. And then two men fall into step beside him immediately, Brother Caleb and Brother Mason. They don't touch him, but they escort him back out the door where he came from. And as he disappears through the door, the congregation begins to disperse in a haze of emotion and whispered awe. Vaughn says to you, I guess that's about as subtle as it gets. If you want to meet him, I'd say now would probably be the time. I won't sugarcoat it. He's sharp, and those two, they're not ushers.
Mhm. So does he just leave completely through a door, or does he take position at a door to shake hands with people as they
Yeah,
leave?
they usher him out.
Okay. All right. Turning to Vaughn, do you know if it's okay to follow them out that door, or
Um, I imagine we'll probably go out with the rest of the crowd, and then the rectory is just on the other side. I'm sure that's where they've ushered him into.
okay. All right.
Um, we should be able to go over there, and I imagine Pike will probably be nearby. We'll probably have to go through him first.
Okay. Um, so we'll follow Vaughn's lead, I think, to try and go ahead and speak with the pastor. While we're en route, privately, I'll speak the sights and say, "Well, what do you think? What was your appraisal of the situation up there?"
Well, I've seen it before, and I think I've seen it too many times to really have an honest opinion on it. Based on, the research that I've done with the local hospitals around the area. I mean, we really only have one instance that proves that there has been a definite shift in the condition of an individual. Someone who had had a spinal cord severed that is now walking again and no explanation behind it. So we have one piece of solid evidence. The rest are claiming that they are better. They are up, they are walking around, but they have refused further medical treatment. So we don't know for a fact that these people are actually healed. They seem to be better by all accounts.
Mhm.
So I'm going to reserve my judgment until we actually get some more concrete evidence.
Right. Sounds fair.
Vaughn walks you around to the rectory and just walks up to the door without knocking, opens it up. It's pretty much a public area still, so he knows his way around enough. You guys walk in, and you can hear a few muffled voices drifting from the side offices, and the smell of old coffee and floor polish hangs in the air. And when the door opens, you see an older gentleman in the hallway. I think I've already put you guys in the actual office here, but let me bring you out here to the hall so you can see these guys. You see Thomas Pike, an older gentleman in his probably mid to upper 70s, and a female that looks to be in her mid 50s in the hall. Thomas Pike is the older gentleman. He kind of steps forward when he sees Chief Vaughn. Chief, and he kind of puts a hand up. Pastor Whitaker has had a very long evening. These are long morning. I kind of forgot what time we were. Um, these services take a great deal out of him, and he's been seeing people nonstop since before sunrise. The chief responds, I understand, Thomas, but these agents flew in on federal business. They won't take long. He looks over at Rachel, and she nods. And Thomas says, all right, 10 minutes, but that's all we can give. And he looks at the two of you. And he says, please, gentlemen, be respectful. And then
Will
they
do.
show you into the office. The room is warm, deep red carpet, large wooden desk that dominates the far wall, and behind it, two stained glass windows that catch the morning light, throwing muted blues and ambers across the room. Centered between the two windows is a framed image of a black Jesus Christ, eyes kind, expression solemn. Several comfortable chairs form a sitting area to one side, along with a couch that looks more like something from a counseling office rather than a church. And flanking the desk are Brother Caleb and Brother Mason. They stand perfectly still, hands folded in front of them, jackets concealing broad shoulders. Their eyes track every movement as you enter. Behind the desk, Pastor Daniel Whitaker rises to his feet. He looks tired.
Move forward. Say, it's nice to meet you, sir. Extend a hand out to shake hands.
And he greets it warmly. He looks at Chief Vaughn and he says, Chief Vaughn, I wish you would have called. I'd have made a little bit more time for you. So, what brings the Federal Bureau of Investigation to my doorstep?
Well, had a rather large influx of people into the area who have taken curiosity into the healing that you're offering, and just wanted to kind of take a look ourselves, try to understand it better.
Well, all are welcome here. Uh, I know Chief Vaughn has had some business with us due to a few of our parishioners having been reported as missing by their families, but they are safe and well within our care. They're here of their own accord. No one is forcing them to be here.
And how are you doing?
Me, myself,
Yes, sir.
I have my days, but the Lord has shone his light upon me and has allowed me to share that light with others. I cannot tell you how it happened, but I consider myself a hand of God by his will and his will alone. I've been blessed by him.
Hmm. Hear that you have a particular event that's coming up this upcoming Tuesday.
That is true. Um, Within the past month or so, folks have taken notice outside of the community of what we are doing here, and it's hopefully going to allow me to reach individuals that perhaps our tiny little community here would not be able to reach.
Uh, Speaking from a position of faith, I am curious. The event that you're holding, is it one that you are holding as a result of you, you know, is it something that God contacted you? I guess is a good way of putting it. I know outside of this room, outside of the church, that particular phrasing might be a hard one to understand, but as believers, uh, I think you'll understand. Is this something God has called you to do, um, to hold this event, or is it something that it falls more in the realm of you see it as an opportunity for God to work in lives, but you weren't necessarily directly called to do it?
Well, let me clear something up because I feel I understand perhaps what you're getting at. I do not take any money for healing. I don't tell people how to vote, who to marry, or where to live. All I do is listen and care, share the word of God, and share the healing touch that comes along with it. Now, as far as this event that's coming up, I have been convinced by some of my followers to reach out, uh, certainly for the benefit of the church and our ministry. Yes, there are donations that come along, as there are with any church. The church cannot survive without donations from their patrons. But we are not looking to make a fast buck here, I will tell you that.
That's good. Um, but just to for some clarity from my side, what I'm asking is if God has asked you to do the event. I honestly had not even thought about donations in this case. I'm trying to determine if this is a situation where God has given you a gift and asked you to take specific actions with it, or if it's a situation where you have a gift and while you haven't necessarily had a direct word on how to utilize the gift, you have belief that by taking the actions you're taking, you're staying in step with God and what God wants from you.
Well, I believe there are many men of faith who claim to have conversations with the Lord. There are men who claim to hear his voice. I'm sure if you have a religious background, which it sounds as if you do, you've heard the old adage, the Lord works in mysterious ways, correct?
Hmm.
Now, I would be lying if I told you that the Lord spoke to me directly and said, you need to hold a service for the greater community. What I can tell you is I believe that I have been touched by God in a way that is more personal. I do not have regular conversations where I hear his voice. That's not how the Lord speaks to me. What I do know is that through some miraculous machinations, he has touched me in a way that few have been touched. I don't know how much you know about me, what research you have done, but I suppose if you are here, you know at least a little bit about me. They told me 4 years ago that I was dying. Terminal brain cancer, inoperable, aggressive. The kind where the doctor avoids your eyes because there's nothing left to negotiate. I wasn't afraid of dying, but I was afraid of dying without finishing anything. So I refused treatment, not out of defiance, out of clarity. I had one thing left I could give, and I didn't want to spend my last months in waiting rooms. So I went to Kenya on a mission trip. Took Brother Caleb and Brother Mason here with me, men I trusted, men who knew how to keep moving when things went bad. The place where we were going was a dangerous place. So I needed men that I knew could protect me in my time of weakness. And as luck would have it, things went bad. We were on safari, tourist nonsense, really. And then the ground shook. A hippopotamus hit the truck like it was made of paper. I ran. I don't remember deciding to. I just ran. My legs gave out. I fell into the river face first. I remember thinking, this is it. And then nothing. Brother Mason and Brother Thomas found me, revived me, took me to the nearest hospital, carried me through the jungle for miles. I owe them my life as much as I owe the Lord Almighty. They were working through His guidance. When I woke up, I was in a hospital I couldn't pronounce. Weeks later, the doctors told me the tumor was shrinking. They called it spontaneous remission. I called it mercy. Months after my return to the States, Deacon Thomas, whom you met outside, had a heart attack. Right here in this office, alone, waiting for me to discuss some sort of church business or another. By the time I found him, he was gone. Now, I was an Army medic once. Training takes over when fear doesn't have time. Compressions, clear the airway, breathing. When I leaned in to breathe for him, something happened. Our mouths locked together. It wasn't violent, wasn't wrong. It was like being filled, like the breath of Christ Himself moving through me. Thomas came back screaming. I fell back shaken, convinced I'd been a part of something sacred. That was the first time. I don't claim to understand it. I only know what I've seen, what I've experienced. Broken bodies made whole, pain lifted, fear eased. You may call it a phenomenon, medical anomaly. I call it a miracle. And I won't apologize for using it.
I imagine we're getting pretty close to that 10 minutes being up. You mentioned that if you had known that we were coming, you'd have given us a little bit more time with you. Is there a chance that we could invite you to dinner either this evening or tomorrow evening?
Um, Rachel moves in. She's been kind of at the doorway, and she says, "Unfortunately, the pastor, after a healing such as you've witnessed, is typically rather weak. We do have a lot of preparation to do for Tuesday night. Perhaps we might be able to make some time for a luncheon tomorrow, if that would be acceptable."
That would be wonderful. Do you want us to pick a place and share that with you, or should we let you um, organize details on where that would take place?
We have a community room here at the church, and I'm sure some of our parishioners would be happy to prepare a lunch for you all.
That sounds very delightful. I'd be interested in continuing to get to know more about you, more about here. And we do thank you for the time that you've spent with us, especially um, if you're in the midst of having to recover from um, performing the work that you did in there today.
I appreciate your willingness to allow me time to rest. This does take a lot out of me, and I'm afraid after Tuesday, I will probably be laid up for a day or two after that. Um, and I appreciate that you're giving me a little bit of time to do what I need to do in the meantime to prepare for the service. Sites speaks up. I hope uh, you can forgive the abruptness, but while we are here, we, do have at least a day before we have an opportunity to sit down with you at length. In the meantime, I would ask if it's possible. I'd like to speak with a few of the parishioners that have taken up residence here with the church, if that's possible. Most specifically, the three individuals that uh, had been reported as missing but have now come into the fold. Would that be acceptable? Um, Rachel kind of looks over at the pastor and then back at Thomas. And you can kind of see that Thomas has a bit of a scowl on his face at this. And she looks back at the pastor, and the pastor nods his head. He says, "If they are willing to speak with you, I have nothing to hide. You're more than welcome to visit the residence adjacent to the property. I would simply ask that you schedule that with Rebecca here, or Rachel here."
Thank you for that as well. Um, so as we are leaving, there is something that hits Sam's mind. Out of curiosity, did y'all find out the name of the river that Caleb and Caleb, he kind of points at them, and Mason, like trying to make sure he has the right names for the right people, uh, found you at?
I'm going to look that up. The Tana River.
Um,
It's the longest river in Kenya.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you for that information. And rest well. Thank you all for your time. So we've got a lunch date for tomorrow. That's nice. Once we're out of the area of the staff and the pastor, so who do you think is in charge here? Like, do you feel like it? I'm talking to sites. Do you feel like it's him, or do you feel like? I mean, he did give a nod to Rachel, but at the same time, there definitely seems to be. Um,
Well, Thomas seems to be very protective.
mhm.
Um, he strikes me as an elder in the church that is fairly well respected, has probably, been a part of the church since perhaps even before the pastor got here, would be my assumption. Um, there are certainly, powerful figures within the church structure that, sometimes even supersede, the pastor. I mean, there's always a board of directors, within most church structures. And if he's a deacon, then, he certainly would have been someone that would have, if he was at that time. I think Whitaker's been here for, I think, 7 years, according to the research that I've done. I would imagine that Thomas probably was one of the guys that brought him here. Um, the two of them obviously share, a close bond. Now, whether that is from this supposed healing or if that existed beforehand, I don't know. But I mean, there's a certain amount of protectiveness I think that this guy is putting on Whitaker for whatever reason. I mean, it's not, I don't think, uncommon for a deacon to be protective of a pastor, but I mean, in this case, I mean, it seems a little overprotective. That's just my take.
That's, that's what we're here for. Each of us to have a take on stuff. Um, hmm. Well, I know something that I'm kind of interested in is doing some research on the river and its relationship to some of the folklore traditions that we had talked about earlier, um, as well as the hippo now, since there's a hippo involved, and what
Yeah.
kind of relationship it might could have to healing in Kenya, and in particular the demons that we had talked about earlier. I think that P one, I remember the name right offhand. Uh, Papa Baya. Um, but with it being right after church, I'm wondering if it would be, I mean, right after church, you normally have people go to like the local restaurants. That's a big deal thing, especially from a Southern Baptist church.
Hmm.
Um, 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 ask Chief Vaughn. So where does their congregation normally go to eat afterwards?
Well, we've got a few bigger named chain restaurants that are not too far from here, out kind of closer to the highway. A lot of folks will go there. There's a diner on Main Street. But I would say Most of them are going to hit probably either Rafferty's or O'Charlie's.
Charlie's. Okay. Well, Charlie's I know. Rafferty's I don't. So we got to eat. Might as well get some food there. Kind of listen to the scuttlebutt around. Um, Not necessarily expecting to interact with people. This is more accounting for time.
hmm
We could, at this point, begin trying to touch base with past people who have been healed. Um, if we happen to see the person who was just recently healed, we could talk to them. Um, we could try to interview a doctor. We could technically try going to do the interviews like Sites was talking about with the people who have already experienced healing, those three, Jerome and Sheila and Elizabeth.
Are we having this conversation at the restaurant?
I think that it's fair to say that it's something that Sam and Sites are kind of talking over their next moves about. Sure,
Okay.
sure.
Um, I think the chief probably will go back to the office, and he gives you directions on how to get to O'Charlie's, I guess. And Rafferty's is like right across the street, so we could take your pick either place. Um, and we'll say we go to Rafferty's.
Okay.
And as you are seated, you can see that there's a larger table kind of in the middle, where you recognize certainly some people from the church, most specifically the three missing persons, Jerome, Sheila, and Elizabeth.
Okay.
And they are sitting there with about maybe five other individuals.
Hmm. I
And they
wonder.
are
Go ahead.
laughing, happy, energetic, um, do not look to be ill in any manner.
I wonder if that's the the people who have taken up residence, like all of them.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know. I mean, we know that the three of them certainly are, and I wonder if the rest are, the same.
We could
Uh,
go
w-
over.
Yeah, I think let's talk for a bit, kind of keep an eye on them, and then maybe after they're done with their food, maybe introduce ourselves. What do you think?
Yeah, that sounds like a good way to go. Don't really want to interrupt them.
hmm
Want to find a way to kind of naturally interact. Like I said, we don't want to make people feel like we're, you know, an opposing force that they have to respond to aggressively or anything.
Yeah, intruding on them.
Right.
And maybe honestly, it might be better if just one of us went over there instead of us ganging up on them. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm I think one of my strengths is reading body language. I mean, I'm a profiler. I mean, I could certainly go over and talk to them, but I kind of want to just get a feel for them first, and then maybe do conduct an interview with them later. If you wouldn't maybe go over and introduce yourself, and I can just kind of keep an eye out.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I don't want to come across too investigatorial right off the bat, and I tend to do that, when I'm talking with someone.
Mhm.
You have a much more casual way about you than I do. I'm a little bit more of a clinician when it comes to that, and I can't really help myself. So I'd rather do an interview with them in a little bit more of a closed setting, but I mean, might be worth just kind of a casual brush by.
Mhm. That makes sense. So get get some food, eat a little bit, keep a mild eye on the table, and at some point before it looks like they're about to, like before they are leaving, but maybe around the time that it looks like they're about to kind of get up and go,
Hmm.
um, Sam will make his way to the restroom, wash his hands. I'm assuming he probably got some barbecue ribs if they have those at Rafferty's to compare against what he knows about a Charlie's. Um, and as he is leaving, um, kind of stops next to, we'll say near Jerome, um, because he has his understanding is Jerome is a little bit less um, standoffish with uh, the federal types, or the cop types anyway.
Hmm.
And he is it okay to mod that Jerome had some ribs as well?
Sure.
Okay. Right. As he's walking by, he kind of points at him and says, "Those are real good, aren't they?" To Jerome.
They're pretty good, but I kind of prefer old Charlie's.
You prefer a Charlie's? Do y'all normally go over there and it was too full and y'all came over here today?
Uh,
Or is
we
that just
flip
your,
we flip flop every Sunday.
oh, okay, all right. My my partner and I, we were over at the service earlier today and saw y'all there.
I thought I recognized y'all from the service. You're not from around here, are you?
No, sir. In all honesty, I'm here on a little bit of business. And my partner and I actually had spoken with the pastor right after the service. And Sam introduces himself, and he does say, like, whatever title an FBI investigator would give. I'm honestly not sure if they say FBI investigator so and so or whatever.
Usually just special agent
Okay,
in most cases, yeah.
so Special Agent Stutterswell. Um, it's nice to meet you.
Oh, FBI, huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Um, didn't want that, since I know that I'm speaking with the pastor at the church and whatnot. Didn't want to leave that detail out and leave you feeling like you had someone had approached you without being honest about who they are and what they're about. So,
Well, what brings y'all to Redfield? The church?
yes, sir. Just curious about the happenings there, and we know that there were a couple of folks who had been looked at as being missing at one point. I honestly believe that, if my eyes are not mistaken, I believe you and maybe these other two ladies here were amongst those.
Mhm.
Um,
Make an insight check.
okay. Where am I on here? Am I there? Yep.
Um, the two women kind of stiffen a bit when you say that. And you see Jerome kind of look at the two of them, but he doesn't say anything.
Hmm.
And he says, "Well, yes, I mean that's true. Um,
That just shows your families care about you. That's
uh,
all that shows.
that's tr- that's
Uh,
true, and there's no hard feelings there. But a few of us have decided to take up residence with church. Is that what you're here investigating?"
Not specifically. I mean, it's whenever you're looking at something, you're trying to get a comprehensive view of it. Just, just understand what it is enough to be like, okay, nothing here to worry about. you know.
Well, if it means anything, I can tell you there's really nothing untoward going on here. We certainly believe that we have been touched by God through Pastor Whitaker, and we're simply a means of support. All of us here at this table have decided to help the pastor spread the word, and part of that is our revival that'll be coming up here this Tuesday.
And we heard about that. Heard about that. So it sounds like the pastor is real busy with that.
There's been a lot of attention drawn to our little community here, and uh, I hope it wasn't a mistake for the church to hold a revival like this, inviting outside communities in. But I think with the presence of the government now stepping in, I suppose that's a little concerning on our part that you're looking that intently at us.
Well, to be honest with you, I think that really, if there was if there was just a little bit more uh, intentionality in the follow-ups, I don't know if we would have had any cause to have come here. As far as I know, you're the sole person who has allowed a medical examination of yourself afterwards, just to make sure that you really are in the tip-top shape that you appear to be in and sound to be in. Um, so that's really, I think that that might be what people are most concerned about, as we want to appraise to the best of our ability to appraise, both within a faith and outside of for the secular purposes, that people are in fact okay. Um, but that's neither here nor there. Now at this point, we are here, and we're very interested in trying to be respectful of Pastor Whitaker and anyone else who's making their own uh, decisions by their God-given rights to, you know, take care of themselves the best way they know how. But at any rate, it is very nice to meet you. Um, we're hopeful that we might have a chance to talk with y'all a little bit more. I know there's a luncheon that we're anticipating is being prepared for, I believe, on Monday, that we're expected to be at. And I'm thinking that you guys might be there too. So might be able to actually sit at a table with you rather than just being at a table in the same general vicinity.
Um, okay, now I made an insight check for Jerome.
Okay.
Everything that you said to him, do you feel that that's all very honest, that you're not concealing anything from him?
I think that everything that I've said has been said in a way that it's not really concealing anything.
Hmm.
And I do think that while everything generally is going to have more than one prong to it because we're human beings, I think that concern for the community and concern for the health of people um, was a big prompter in us coming here.
Hmm.
Um, whether that be physical health, mental health, economic health. It can be any kind of health you want it to be. But yeah, I think it's fair to say that Sam has spoken in a way that's honest.
Mhm.
Um, you know,
Okay. Well, Jerome says, well, that being the case, if you all are going to be at the community center tomorrow, at least I can speak for myself. I'll make it a point to be there as well.
well, look forward to it. And checks his hand to make sure, yep, no barbecue sauce on it still. Extends his hand out to Jerome.
And he takes it.
It was nice meeting
It's
you all.
it's a weak handshake.
A weak handshake?
Hmm.
Okay.
So they're like when you shook hands with the pastor, I mean, it wasn't, like a really strong, firm handshake, but it was warm.
Hmm.
There's no warmth to this handshake.
Interesting. No warmth
I
to
mean, I'm not saying that his hand is cold. It's just not as welcoming.
not as welcoming. Okay, that is fair. Do I get the impression that it's not as welcoming as in, so it's not temperature based, it's
Right.
more tone.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
welcome. Okay, cool. Thank you for that clarification.
Hmm.
Okay, that's something that I imagine an FBI agent would be used to. So, shaking a lot of sheriff's hands. um, but returns back to his table, doesn't try to engage with the ladies or
Hmm.
with the other people at the table, especially unless they try to engage with him. Um,
Yeah,
so
they do not.
mhm. The temperature looks like it's probably gone down for everybody. Is that
Hmm.
a fair assessment? Okay.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, and once you come back, they settle up their check and then kind of make their way out. Uh, Jerome kind of nods in your direction to tell you goodbye as they leave, and Sights lets them go, and he says, "I don't know what all you said, and I mean maybe you've shared a little bit of that with him, in the interim."
mhm.
He says, though, the reaction at one point during your conversation, there was a little side glance that Jerome gave the two women on either side of him. Their demeanor changed like immediately, and it was like a ripple throughout that table. Um, and I think it was a direct reaction to your comment of are you here when he asked you outright, are you here because of the church? Um, so they are certainly wary, I think, of the fact that we are here. Um, which is understandable. I mean, I get it.
Yeah, they were always going to be wary.
Hmm. Did you feel like he was forthcoming? I mean, I know you didn't really get into anything, but
Well, my my general assessment was that he was pleasant enough. He, I think, obviously, as you had been able to deduce from here, was less inclined towards uh, bringing a full welcoming personality to our interactions when he realized that I was an FBI agent, in particular that information from the church was kind of what we're here to assess some of. Um, but I mean, there was nothing that we really discussed that I think he would have needed to have. I didn't get the impression that he was concealing that they're currently heavily involved in arms deals or anything of that nature. I'll put it
Hmm.
that way. So um, I get the impression that he truly believes what he believes. Um, but that's, I could be wrong about that. Um, that's just an impression.
Hmm.
Um, they definitely are uh, of a solid mind together. Oh, excuse me. Oh, I'd had a thought and I lost my thought. Oh, well, maybe it'll come back. Um, darn. Oh, well, maybe it'll come back. But maybe I'm to be honest. So I have gone over with sites. We'll say what the general um, conversation was,
Yeah.
and let's say maybe they particularly didn't like the fact that not having done medical examinations uh, was something that got brought up as a possible reason. I mean, I would hate for them to feel guilty for not having done something they didn't want to do, but at the same time, that is a major component is we haven't been able to check to see if they are genuinely well. And maybe if they think that through, maybe they'll. I could see them all in mass going to the hospital and
Hmm.
choosing to get medical examinations in order to exonerate their church from any concerns. But I also could see them not doing that to show a different kind of solidarity. So
Well, I tell you what, you mentioned something about wanting to kind of do a little bit more research on some of the Kenyan myths. Um, Maybe I'll give you a little bit of time back at the hotel to dig into that a little bit, and I'll go over to the hospital and see if I can get a face-to-face with Jerome's doctor, and then maybe he can put me in contact with some of the other physicians, and I'll see if I can, get any more information directly from them regarding Elizabeth and Sheila or any of the other individuals that were at that table. Maybe I can get some more names that way.
it sounds good. I agree with that.
Okay. All right. So I'll drop you back off at the hotel, and then I'll meet back up with you, later this afternoon or early evening, and we can discuss over dinner.
Sounds good.
Okay. Okay. So Sites drops you back off at the hotel. You dive into your laptop and do a bit of research. So what I will have you do is roll, I think another investigation probably. Let me see if there's anything better. Um, it is- yeah, I would say investigation again would probably be your best bet.
Okay.
And at advantage because of the specifics I think that you're looking for. You're honing in on something I think that will probably be a little bit more advantageous for you.
Okay.
There you go, 20.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're specifically really looking at folklore that kind of surrounds the Tana River, correct?
Right. And the hippopotamus and,
Hmm.
and correlated with the demons that are spirits that we've already kind of been looking into.
Hmm. So the Tana River runs through regions that are inhabited by two kind of specific tribes. One called the Pocomo and the other called the Orma people. And then there are other smaller communities that, kind of surround that area, but most of these bits of lore kind of come specifically from those two tribes. The Pocomo traditions hold that powerful river spirits inhabit the Tana and sometimes take people who fall into the water. The river itself is considered by the Pocomo a living spiritual entity. And they say that people who nearly drown may return changed in some way. Survivors sometimes claim they dreamed or heard voices underwater, and a bit of the folklore that's passed along states when the river takes you but gives you back, you are not the same person who went in, is the rough translation. Now, a little bit east of Kenya, um, this belief kind of expands a little bit where it says that water spirits can enter someone who inhales the water. Possession can manifest as healing abilities or strange, like almost like charisma. And the host may feel great heat or pressure in the chest. And then looking into the hippopotami a little bit, um, the Tana River ecosystem is kind of famous for the hippopotamus. And the folklore often portrays the hippos as protectors of the river's spiritual domain. They are seen as guardians trying to drive away intruders and a warning not to disturb something within the river.
Interesting. Hmm.
And these are all, by the way, based on actual folklore from that region.
Awesome. Um, this might be a long shot, but long shots are not usually discouraged. So, is there any anything that can be found online from the Kenyan newspapers themselves covering what happened to Pastor Whitaker?
Um, Based on the two roles that you have made, there's been, as far as like public acknowledgement of what happened there, there is none.
Okay.
Um, you were able to access some of the medical records, and it was very difficult to get that.
Mhm.
It would have been a lot easier to access, more public records like that. And there was no, I mean, there was maybe a mention of a safari um, expedition that had run afoul of a hippopotamus from that time period, but the
Mhm.
pastor and the passengers were not named at that
Okay.
time. It said that there were visitors from the United States and other areas that were a part of that expedition. There were no reported deaths, but some minor injuries. And that was all that was basically said on that.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, this all sounds mean, correlative at least to
Hmm.
some of what we're seeing. Um, with regards to the Pacomo itself, or not, that's the people. No, that's not the people. Sorry. What was it called? The the
The
Papaya. What was
Orma,
that?
Orma.
Well, I'm thinking about the river spirits. Really, is what I'm looking for, like a
Mm-hmm.
name for them, and or the um, pa. I've got it in here, but my note, Papa Baya. You know these spiritual beings. When looking at lore, is there any way to like reveal them or to repel them or anything of that nature that comes up, or even to destroy them? You know, that kind of stuff is often kind of a thing you'll find in folklore. Is how do you respond when such and such a thing is out and about? Um,
That's a good question.
thank you. If nothing else, we are having a fun time learning Kenyan mythology.
That's one of the things about, I think, running a game like this that is very investigatorial is sometimes I can anticipate what people are going to ask, and then other times I can't. Back in the old days when I really didn't have this access to the internet like we do now, I would just have to make shit up. But now I can actually get a little bit more specific. Okay, so it looks like spirits like this are they rarely appear on their own. They are normally either revealed, provoked, or drawn out through rituals, environmental disturbances, or the like. Um, it looks like you would almost have to be present at the river to call these spirits out. Um, there are offerings that sometimes can call them out. There are uh, milk and or alcohol are said to bring the spirits out when poured into the water. Now, whether that would have the same effect on, you know, a human or not would probably remain to be seen.
Mhm.
um, okay, so wafting smoke over a person believed to be possessed is potentially a way to draw a spirit out. By making the host choke or cough. And in some African traditions, there are spirits that are believed to appear in reflections before they appear physically. Uh, and this can be done either with water or a mirrored surface of some kind.
Okay,
Spirits cannot hide from their own reflections, is part of that lore.
interesting. Okay.
Separate the possessed person from crowds. And moving symbolic objects, religious items, charms,
Was that moving or removing?
removing them from the individual.
Okay. Okay. It's all interesting information. I can process that. See if there's anything that seems worth replicating in real time.
Mhm.
It's I guess after that deep dive, sites probably shows back up.
Yes, yeah, he does. And Seitz says that he was able to interview Jerome's doctor again, and he was able to show him some of the X-rays of his spinal column. Uh, he said that Jerome had a car. He's a mechanic, and he was underneath the car. The car fell on him and severed his spinal cord. Um, they were able to repair his spinal column, the backbone, but with the cord being severed, he was paralyzed from the waist down. Um, in an X-ray that was taken after he was back on his feet again, you can still see evidence of the damage around the spinal cord, but there is like a buildup of almost what looks like almost like a calcium kind of deposit around the cord that has somehow brought it back together. But this is not something that he can explain by any stretch of the means. It is extremely rare that someone that has had damage like this done would spontaneously heal in this manner. It's not unheard of, but it is a 1 in a million chance that something like this would happen.
Mhm.
Um, he put sites in contact with a couple of other physicians that are associated with specifically Elizabeth and Sheila. Both of those physicians have expressed great concern about the patients, have been in contact with the family. Several family members are very concerned about them. They have worked on both Sheila and Elizabeth to try to convince them to come back to see the doctors. And they are insistent on the fact that they no longer wish to visit the hospitals, that they feel better than they have in years and do not feel like they need that help again. Sheila specifically has said that she doesn't want to be used as a guinea pig, um, that she believes that her faith in God and her faith in Pastor Whitaker supersede uh, the care that can be given to her by the physicians, and she is refusing to return. And to the point where she has just cut off pretty much all communication with her family because they've been so persistent about her returning to the hospital that she won't even talk to them anymore.
It's a shame to see a healing of the body, putting a wall up between family and friends and loved ones. Um, Now, let me share what I found out as it is. So I pass along the sites the information about the uh, spirits, river spirits, and hippopotamus and the various uh, superstitions relating to how you could um, produce a river spirit, see that it's there or not there, and uh, perhaps drive it away, and so on and so forth. And after he gets through kind of summarizing, he's like, I mean, short of having a hand mirror and smoking in front of the pastor, I can't think of any great ways to engineer any of these kind of reactions. He's Southern Baptist, so alcohol is not going to be a part of anything, though milk might be there.
Well, that's actually what I was going to ask is, do you smoke?
No, no, I don't.
I don't either, but I might pick it up and maybe try to light something up while while we're in his presence. I mean, the only other thing is that, you mentioned something about, separating him from his community, separating him from a crowd. Um, the police chief mentioned that he's always got the two bodyguards around him pretty much at all times.
I've wondered about that too.
So I wonder if there would be some way to figure out how to get him alone. I mean, he's got those two guys around him. He's got uh, Deacon Pike and his assistant, Rachel Morrow. Seems like they kind of dote on him and hover around him quite a bit. So it sounds like he's always got somebody nearby. So I
Mhm.
wonder if somehow we could get him alone, if that might, you know, cause some sort of reaction.
That is a good point. Be brought in for questioning for something, but that's definitely a an
Hmm.
aggressive maneuver.
It
Uh,
is, but I wonder if maybe that might be a way to do it. Um, but we'd have to have some sort of probable cause to get him into an interrogation room. And I mean, other than the missing persons, which technically has been solved at this point because they're not missing anymore. We'd have to come up with some reason to get him in, and I don't know that we could really fabricate something, without getting us in trouble.
a less aggressive possibility would be telling him that we want to dispute for spiritual guidance purposes.
Almost like a confessional.
Right,
Hmm.
right. I mean, they don't do confession in
Right.
the
In
the,
the
the
Baptist
Southern
church,
Baptist
but
Church,
yeah.
but it is not unheard of or unusual for a pastor to privately speak with someone about spiritual matters or even mundane matters. I mean, that's a matter of normalcy in that denomination. So,
How do you feel about lying to a pastor?
mm,
Or, I mean, not to pry, but would you have a legitimate reason to ask him for spiritual guidance?
mm, thinking about this out of character for a second. Mm.
It's a moral dilemma, I think, there for you, right?
Well, no, it's more that I'm thinking about like my character and things related to my character and what kinds of questions they might would bring to a person who was in a spiritual leadership position,
Mhm.
how they would phrase those questions if they asked them, and if there are any like because I can think of big ticket things that might could apply, but I don't know if those are things um, to pursue. And I'm trying to think if there are any other things that might apply to the character. Because the truth is, I mean, I could see a person who is a practitioner having any number of reasons that they could want to talk to a pastor independently um, about, questions within the church. There's one thing that I do want to look up real quick,
Hmm.
and that might be a question starter. I don't know if I want to go with it though. For the sake of continuing and not bogging down gameplay.
Hmm.
Um, while I can think of a few things that I might could bring up to a pastor, I don't know if those would be things that I'd want to necessarily uh, use as uh, ways to move into a confessional conversation with a spiritual leader. So you've got a good point there. It might be one of those things that even though it's a good true cause for separating him, it's not one that I can as easily do myself. Um, I don't suppose you have any faith questions that you would want to bring up with a religious leader at this point either, huh?
Well, I live in a slightly maybe more morally gray area. Um, where I could still be, acting within the purview of the law, but, maybe not quite as forthcoming. I mean, my motivation is simply just getting him alone. It just to see what sort of reaction that we would have. And I mean, truthfully, I think my instinct is that even if we tried, knowing how protective his followers are of him, I don't know if it would be allowed. And I think that's more of what I want to test than anything.
Okay.
Just based off of what I've seen. I mean, we haven't spoken to either of those bodyguards that he's got directly. I mean, they've been there, they've been in his presence. We've had interactions with Pike and Morrow, and they seem very protective of him. They are close by. I can understand somebody being in his position having protectors, especially if he's coming under national attention. I'm sure there are people, there are reporters, there are, potential uh, parishioners or, people that just want his help that are probably pestering him. And he needs to put some separation there. But I mean, the fact that these guys have been by his side for the last 3 to 4 years since he was diagnosed, and that we don't know too much about them. What is their real connection to him? Why have they stuck by his side all this time? There's got to be a reason, I think, behind that. Um, I mean, I've done some background check on, both of those guys. The chief is right. I mean, they've had some minor little misdemeanors, but nothing that has really ended them up in custody or being arrested or anything like that. Um, and that's in the past. Since they've been with the pastor, with the church, they've not been brought in for any sort of violence or anything of that sort. Um, I don't know. I mean, I think for me, it's more just a test as to see of whether or not we can get him alone more than trying to prove that he's possessed by some sort of water spirit or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I don't know.
Hmm.
I mean, I was kind of half joking about the whole taking up smoking, but that might be, based off of stuff that you and I have dealt with in the past. Nothing is really out of the question here.
Right,
But I mean, we can't just light up in a public, place, unless we're outside somewhere. And yeah, I don't know. I'm grasping at straws here based off of, folklore.
right. Well, how about we plan to investigate trying to see if he can be separated from the group um, at the luncheon. Uh, you might could be the separator. Um, I can, I suppose, be interacting with people, and I don't know, maybe that will create more of an opportunity for that just by simply being chatty. Um, um, I've been wondering about trying to engage Caleb and Mason, like, and get them to at least speak. So um, maybe between the two of us, we can
Divide and conquer.
perhaps perhaps. So, um, but I would say that trying to bring him in for questioning would be a uh, that's the nuclear tactic, you know. And like you pointed out, um, doing it because of folklore, there is a certain amount of grain of salt with anything that is probably worth using. But yeah, that might be our just getting him to be by himself, where he can be talked to, free of other ears, and not necessarily concerned about it, what other ears hear, is not a bad thing. I mean, so yeah, that might be our tactic.
All right.
Hmm.
Well, let's see what the lunch brings us tomorrow, and we'll kind of play things by ear.
Oh, did we find any patients, or they're not really patients, any people who have been healed um, that it seemed like would be worth talking to, that have not gone and joined the so-called flock?
Most of those individuals that have not joined the flock uh, are from outlying areas and have returned home at this point. So, yeah, with a little bit of research, we could probably track that down, but it's not going to be something that we're probably going to be able to do before lunch tomorrow.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Well, we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, I don't
Oh,
have. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to ask. I'm pretty sure that it was just a map thing,
Mhm.
but I noticed that there were Christmas decorations in
It
the
was
church.
just a math thing. I
Okay,
was
just
afraid I couldn't find a really good church map that didn't have Christmas decorations around it that actually fit kind of what I was envisioning that the church looked like, and I was like, ah, we'll just ignore those.
yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Just figured I'd ask just in case.
Dang it, you saw them. Okay.
But, all right.
But yeah, it's probably, roughly about the same time frame that we're in right now, probably March or so.
Okay. Lent.
Hmm.
Although being Southern Baptist, they will not have an official Lent happening anyway, usually.
All right. So you want to just jump to the following day? Is there anything
Yeah.
else?
Yeah, I think jumping to the following day makes sense.
Okay. All right. So we end up um, going to kind of the community center that's attached to the church. Um, and there uh, are several parishioners that have prepared a nice little meal for the pastor, Thomas Pike, Rachel Morrow, Brother Caleb, Brother Mason are all in attendance. And then because we've kind of requested to speak with some of the individuals, Jerome, Sheila, and Elizabeth are there in attendance as well as um, the police chief, who has joined us as well. Um, some niceties are exchanged. There's a nice meal, fried chicken, mashed potatoes, casserole, kind of your typical potluck dinner, that would be prepared at a church. It's all very
Mhm.
good, homemade cooking, and so forth. So, um, once the main course is complete, things kind of settle in to where, it becomes a little bit more formal. And we can kind of begin, asking whatever questions that we feel like need to be addressed.
Okay. All right. And just for the sake of like trying to set an atmosphere that's a little bit more at ease, Sam has been engaging with people and talking with people, or trying to at any rate.
Hmm.
Uh, Complimented the food. Uh, Probably has even made a comment that somewhere along the line of, um, well, if nothing else, nobody has to worry about good eating for the people who are living there at the community center. So, um, has he
So
made?
I
Go
would
ahead.
say, knowing that you and I both are probably doing that, I would either make a persuasion or social sciences check, whichever you feel is better for you.
I'll go with the social sciences. Well, if I'm honest, though, it's probably more truly persuasion. So even though the other's a better one,
Uh-huh.
I'll go ahead and do it.
And I don't know if you saw what Eric just rolled.
I did. I did. Uh,
Um, Eric did not come across very well to these folks at all. Um,
yeah.
so you got an 11, which you can still kind of tell that the temperature of the room, that these folks are just very wary of the fact that the FBI is here investigating the church.
Hmm. Hmm.
And uh, much to his dismay, Sights is really catching most of the cold shoulder at this point, and you can tell that most of the conversation is gearing away from him, that they're giving very abrupt, short answers to him. He just has come across poorly, I think, with these folks, and it may be, his more agnostic, you know, demeanor probably. Than
Hmm.
you, where they've maybe warmed up a little bit more to you, but they're still very cautious.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Sounds fair. So with that as an underpinning, two two things.
And Seitz is now he's picked up on that, and you can tell that he is kind of just shutting himself down and just observing and letting you take the lead on this.
Okay. So as I said, you know everyone looks very well fed and taken care of.
I'm,
And
I'm going to move us here so that you can actually, so that we can see everybody.
uh,
This
two,
isn't necessarily where we're eating, but this will at least put us in a room together. And let's see if I can rearrange these to the actual seating, probably, that we are taking. Brother Caleb and Brother Mason take seats right next to the pastor. And I'm going to put sights about as far away from everybody as possible. There we go. That's pretty close anyway.
Size was at the fake head of the table. And
Yeah.
so that's why everybody was like, no, you're not the head of the table. We're not even going to acknowledge you. We have to make sure Pastor Whitaker's feelings aren't hurt.
Hmm.
Um, but all right, so thank you for the food, genuinely, and thank you for being here, letting us come and speak with you. Weird to be speaking to an entire room of people. Usually, it's a more of a one-on-one kind of thing, but um, anyway, so several of you have uh, been able to partake of the pastor's ministrations, in particular of the healing. I guess everybody here um, has had a chance, one way or another, to maybe speak with the pastor and interact with the pastor in some kind of a capacity. Um, and I hope I don't feel too much put on the spot, but what are your assessments of what you've experienced? As someone who is an investigator, I've heard kind of third hand, but or second hand, maybe at best. But I'd really like to know what you three, and he's of course looking at Jerome and Sheila and Elizabeth. I'd like to know your thoughts. If you feel it at all, there's any pressure to speak one way or another, let us know, and we can speak to you separately. But I have a feeling that y'all feel pretty comfortable with the pastor and his staff. So,
Now, Jerome kind of speaks up first. He says that I'd been working as a mechanic here in town pretty much all my working life and had a terrible accident several years ago where a car, I was working underneath a vehicle that was jacked up, and the car unfortunately fell on me, severed my spine. I was told I would never walk again. My sister, I was not a member of the church at the time, but my sister was, brought me here, and Whitaker, Pastor Whitaker prayed over me, placed his hands on my shoulders, and then leaned in. And I mean, I have to say, it's a little bit uncomfortable, and he kind of chuckles a little bit when he placed his mouth upon mine. But when he did, I could feel this electricity running down my spine. And then moments later, I felt my toes move in my shoes. Uh, I didn't immediately hop up out of my wheelchair at that time, but I could feel the sensation coming back. And over the next 2 days, uh, found myself able to move my legs and eventually put weight on them. And I suppose the rest is history. I've been able to get around just as good as I was before the accident. Um, Went back to the hospital, shortly after, I felt the sensations coming back, and they took some x-rays and said that I had some sort of buildup around the spinal cord, and it was kind of a wait and see approach, but it was a very quick recovery after that point. Nothing that the doctors could explain. So I certainly owe Pastor Whitaker my mobility. And Whitaker shakes his head. He says, I'm just the vessel. You know that. I know that's what you keep saying. But I certainly wouldn't be sitting here and walking around had it not been for your intervention.
Have you been for any other medical appointments after that? Not necessarily even related to your recovery, but just your general physical upkeep.
Oh, yeah, yeah, a few times since then, and everything seems to be going just fine. I'm in tip-top shape, for my age, at least.
Okay. Well, so what I'm not sure which of you would be the best person to start with, but I suppose um, let's see. See, Elizabeth has. I'll just pick one.
Hmm.
um, what about you? Uh,
And looking at Elizabeth, it looks as though she's fairly recently come out of remission. Her hair is still very short, but she has some stubble now that is coming back. She is thin, but not emaciated. Um, Looks as though she's like maybe just kind of recently started kind of putting some weight back on. Um, she's kind of soft spoken, and I wouldn't necessarily say shy, but maybe a little bit reserved. Um, she says that she came to Redfield um, because the hospital has better chemotherapy than where she is from. And she had heard about the pastor and his abilities and came just to kind of because she wasn't really responding well to the chemotherapy. She thought, well, what could it hurt? But to maybe see, what this guy was all about. Um, she was a school teacher, widowed, and had two adult children that live out of state. So she really didn't have anybody really here. So she came just kind of seeking solace. And the pastor picked her up out of the crowd. And as has been the case, kissed her while in prayer. And she says that she felt her heart moving through her chest like sunlight. Um, I have to sneeze. It's not coming. Um, she fainted during the process and woke up feeling no pain for the first time in months. And she did return and to the hospital and had some tests done. They still were finding evidence of the tumors, but it looked like they were shrinking. Now, the hospital accredited this to the chemotherapy, but prior to that incident, um, the tumors were not shrinking. And the chemotherapy seemed to not, she was not responding well to it. They were talking about doing radiation, but she was refusing the radiation treatments because she had had someone in her family that had suffered from radiation prior to, and she just would not do it. The doctors felt like the radiation would help, but she just didn't want to be in that position. Um, Once it was confirmed that the tumors were shrinking, she decided to leave the treatment plan and move in here at the church to be closer to the pastor. And she says that she has continued to feel better. There's no pain. She's not had any further tests done at the hospital, but she has felt the area, where the tumors were, and she seems to be healing. They were talking about removing the breasts, but she did not have that done. And she says that she cannot feel the tumors anymore.
Mhm. But you haven't gone back for a general checkup or anything of that nature since feeling that from your own assessment you feel like you're in remission and recovering.
Yes, it's been close to 2 months at this point since the laying on of hands, shall
Hmm.
we say.
Are you planning on at least doing an annual checkup, like in the future? Like, is that something you would suspect you would go back to doing as part of just a normal medical maintenance practice?
Well, I suppose if things take a turn, I would return, but my faith now is in the Lord and in Pastor Whitaker. I was dying, and now I'm not.
And I'm kind of assuming that names have been established with people and how you're going to talk to somebody has kind of been established through the original conversation earlier. Um, for Sheila, did she come off as somebody who it's okay to call her Sheila, or would she prefer to be called Mrs. whatever her last name is? Or Miss?
Uh, Miss Moore probably would be preferred,
Okay.
and just by her demeanor.
Right.
She's rather kind of stern looking now, like she
Hmm.
really doesn't want to be here.
Uh-huh. Miss Moore, would you say that um, your experiences have been more or less the same as Jerome and Elizabeth?
I believe that my doctors serve science, not the Lord Jesus. Pastor Whitaker is the hand of God, and through his healing touch, I have been saved. The doctors and people like yourselves, you people want proof while miracles are happening in front of you, and you deny the power of divine intervention. So I do not appreciate the fact that you all are here investigating our church, investigating our good pastor. What harm has he done? He has done no harm. While the church takes donations from those in attendance, it is not demanded, it is given of free will. He is not here to make a buck off of his divine ability. He is here to heal and to assist and to spread light and joy. And I think it is a shame that the government is here to dampen the good works that our good pastor is providing not only to the community, but now perhaps to this nation and then to the world, if that is the case. And you will forgive me for being so abrupt in saying so. But that's just the way I feel.
Oh, that's perfectly fine. I don't think that there's any forgiveness or absolution required for being honest and responding. I thank you for your candor. For the sake of knowing, though, are do you believe you'll return to any kind of annual care at any point in the future, or is that something that for you is a uh, that that ship has sailed kind of a deal?
I believe when it's time to meet my maker, I shall meet him with open arms.
Mr. Pike, my understanding is you're someone who was the first to experience this. Have you continued any kind of medical care since the time that your original um, healing had occurred?
Well, I'm a bit older than everybody else here, so certainly there are concerns, for my continued health. But that heart attack happened 3 years ago. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I remember it very clearly. Quiet day around the church, and I was going about doing what I usually do, balancing the books, paying utility bills, all that sort of thing. Then all at once felt like someone drove a railroad spike through my ribs. It's just a crushing pressure in my chest, pain shooting down my arm, the room spinning. I knew what was happening right away. It's a heart attack. My father died the same way. I tried to call 911, but collapsed before I could reach the phone. Next thing I remember, I'm floating somewhere dark, real peaceful like, actually, like being asleep under warm water. I heard someone shouting my name far away at first. Pastor Daniel told me later I wasn't breathing when he found me. No pulse either. He told me when he leaned down to breathe into my lungs, something came over him like the Holy Spirit grabbed a hold of him. Said he felt a fire leaving his lungs. That darkness I was swimming in, suddenly it just turned bright like the sun rising behind my eyes, and I woke up on the floor, choking and coughing like I'd been underwater. Ambulance came, took me to the hospital. Doctors ran every test they had, said my heart looked better than it had in 20 years. No damage, no blockage, nothing. And I can say now, nothing's changed. Still feel as good as the day that I woke up on the floor here in the church with Pastor kneeling beside me. The Lord breathed life back into me that day, and Pastor Daniel was his instrument.
And have you gone back for routine exams
Oh,
just for,
yes, yes,
okay.
yes, yes, yes. Uh, if you'll pardon me saying so, Pastor, fairly religiously.
I know Sam would laugh at that. So hopefully a few others did too. All right. And Miss Morrow and uh, Brother Caleb, Brother Mason, as I have been uh, given leave to call you, have any of you experienced any healing or anything else of that nature um, with Pastor Daniel Whitaker being the instrument? I haven't yet heard that y'all have, but I am curious to ask.
They both kind of share a glance to one another, and uh, Mason kind of chuckles a bit. He says, "No, I suppose I can say, fortunately, I haven't had the need to, but we were with the pastor in Kenya when our safari was under attack. We got separated from him. We were asked to come along with him because of our individual backgrounds, and knew that he was in a weak state when he undertook that mission. And he asked us to come along just to kind of be there for him. His wife had passed several years prior to, and he just needed some men of strength, as he put it, to come along with him. We did, and unfortunately, during the accident, we got separated, and in the chaos, the two of us broke off in search of the pastor. Everyone went their separate way, trying to escape that hippopotamus. A few people got injured. Fortunately, the brother Caleb and I were not, but we lost track of the pastor and found him not far off, face down in the river. And we were concerned that he had drowned, but we pulled him out, uh, cleared his airway, got him breathing again, then got him over to the hospital. And then since then, since his recovery, we've just simply not left his side.
And that was Mason who had been talking, right?
Yeah,
And similar story for you, Brother Caleb?
what the man said.
Mhm. And Miss Morrow had also asked about you. Had you had any kind of experiences?
Uh, Me personally, no, but he did uh, assist my husband.
Okay. Your husband's, I, I'm not, forgive me. Do all the people who are here normally stay on site with the church? Or, I mean, other than myself, my partner, and uh, Chief Vaughn?
No, and Brother Mason and Brother
Oh, that's
Caleb
right.
both say, that they live, in their own individual homes or apartments, and Morrow and Pike do not live on site. But they might as well, they say, because they spend so much time here.
Okay. And Pastor Whitaker, do you have a parsonage on site or, you
He
know,
does, yes.
a parson? Okay.
Hmm.
So before I continue, I was wondering if I could do an insight check just to kind of get a feel for the responses,
Hmm.
the honesty of them, and uh, that general kind of feel of whether people are being open or holding anything back. Oh, yeah,
13.
yeah.
Um, I think the three parishioners are being honest. Uh, and while Caleb and Mason are probably telling the truth, they're also really not giving more information than what's needed.
Mhm,
Um, Mason is probably a little bit more forthcoming than Caleb.
mhm, mhm. Okay, let's see. So Sam kind of taps his head. I'm gonna say that he's probably been sitting down during this time. Um, well, Pastor Whitaker, it seems like you have a very well uh, flock who has received your ministering very well. Um, a moment, I can't think of any specific questions beyond those I've asked. I appreciate the kindness with which people have answered and the candor. He looks at Sheila. Um, I guess I do have some questions that might be a little bit more of the taking off the federal agent hat and putting on the spiritual practitioner hat, I might ask. Um,
Is something troubling you, son?
well, it's just a couple of little things as a believer that I'm curious about. Um, I probably can ask him publicly. I might can ask him privately, but as far as just a public thing, just bringing it up. And Pastor Whitaker, I've heard you on several occasions make sure to be directly glorifying of the Lord and speak of yourself as being an instrument for the Lord and something that you aren't the generator of what looks very much like miracles. And as a believer, that's something that I appreciate. I think that's something that a person who is a leader, or even someone who is just a Christian who happens to be uh, the person through which a miracle is being generated, should do. And I understand gratefulness uh, from people to the person who would be an instrument. I am curious as to what your thoughts are on the degree to which the people who are experiencing these healings are tying you up in the veneration. And I don't mean that to come across as adversarial. I feel like maybe it's a question worth asking in front of people who have been touched by the healing, so that if there's any kind of reorientation that you would feel is necessary, that can be offered up front to make sure that the glory is going where the glory would be supposed to go.
Mm.
So, and I am asking this of you, like I said, more as somebody who also has a belief uh, in Christ. Um,
I,
so I'll shut up and let you talk.
I believe that people who have stared death in the face tend to reevaluate their priorities. I have been nothing but upfront and forthcoming in the fact that while I have been given this ability to act as the hand of God, this is not an inherent ability that I need to be given credit for. It is a gift that has been bestowed upon me, and I am nothing but the vessel. And as I have stated before, I take no compensation other than donations to the church. My salary has not changed. Since this ability has come forth, I am here to serve my flock. I'm here to serve the people. And I simply wish to share the light and the love of Jesus Christ through the power of healing. The fact that some of these individuals have now chosen to take up residence here on our property, we have opened our doors to them. Simply that. I require nothing from them. Does that answer your question?
Just to let you know, you had gone out for a minute there.
Oh, really?
I think I caught the majority of it. So if there is something that you said that it sounds like I didn't quite catch it, just let me know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it elaborates beyond some of what I was asking.
And I don't know, perhaps that came off more antagonistic than I meant it to. I don't mean it to
no,
sound that
not
way, but you are
not.
here investigating me, investigating my church, investigating our practice. So I feel like I do need to defend that in some manner.
That's understandable. And no, don't worry. You didn't come out like you were trying to create yourself into an opponent on a battlefield or anything. Um, I suppose um, suppose from a position of a believer, my concern is who is getting the veneration in the end. And that's maybe some, I mean, that's not really anything that you can completely control because you can't control people. And you have to do what you have been called to do. I understand that. It's just a concern I have. Um,
So your concern is that I'm somehow forming some sort of cult?
no. What I'm talking as a believer here. My concern is whether God is being honored by what you're doing. And that's really I guess the bottom line is I'm concerned about whether God's honored by what's taking place or not honored by what's taking place. And if you don't know for sure the answer to that, the 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 wisdom in choosing to go to a level that's starting to become bigger before knowing for sure whether it's God or the person who God is using that's getting the bulk of the acclaim. That's all.
Sheila Moore speaks up at that. And she says, well, I have to speak up because I can tell you without question that while credit is being given to Pastor Whitaker for his abilities, none of us sitting around this table or the others that are choosing to be here of our own accord venerate the pastor in any way other than he is a vessel chosen by God. And the other two, and the deacon, all nod their head in agreement with that.
Sam kind of looks around the room and says, thank you. That's for me on a personal level, that is a good thing to hear said directly and spoken to directly. I don't know if it's easy from the perspective outside looking in at an outsider looking in at you. It's hard to get that. Um, it's been hard for me to separate how you respond to things from them being focused on the God that you believe in versus being focused on the pastor that you appreciate God using. I appreciate the clearing that up for me as a on a personal note. Um,
And Sites now kind of speaks up after that. And he says, folks, I apologize. And I think Agent Stutterswell here has shown that our interest is the safety of the community and making sure that things are above board. That is our purpose here. What I would have to ask at this point, and I know Miss Moore, I believe that you've kind of expressed that, um, the doctors prefer science over belief. I think that you all have sussed me out as someone who perhaps leans a little bit more into science. And I apologize if that's off-putting. But I think the one thing that I would ask, we know that we've spoken, Agent Stutterwell has spoken with all of you about your willingness to participate in being tested medically. But one thing that we haven't asked is to perhaps ask Pastor Whitaker whether or not he would be willing to submit to medical testing. And the pastor, he doesn't bristle. He just kind of considers a little bit. He says, if it would help someone, I would be willing to do that. But I won't allow my body to become a spectacle. Faith with a needle in it tends to leak. Do you keep records of the individuals that have been healed? I keep prayer lists, names people give willingly, but medical records aren't my place. If someone wants their healing to be private, then I respect that. So have you had private healings outside of what you've done publicly? Oh, yes. Yes, I have. And do you have records of those individuals? As I said, I keep prayer lists. I prefer to keep those private. Are you aware of any adverse effects on any of these individuals? Healing is disruptive. Oftentimes, there can be immediate reactions, as you saw simply last night, convulsions, um, borderline seizures. But in each incident, they have come out of it a better person. We've had no deaths. We've had no ill effects that have occurred up until this point. People lose disability benefits, relationships change, as you can see with some of my parishioners here. Marriages break under the weight of sudden hope, but not all consequences are physical. So, are there adverse effects? Yes. But the health of the individuals in question, it's not been an issue.
how do you make selection of who you heal?
That is something more instinctual, I suppose. Um, I look out on the crowd, a good vast majority of individuals that are in the congregation are there for a reason, and I can't help everyone. Um, and this to me is perhaps maybe the communication that I get through the Lord Almighty as I'm called to a certain individual or individuals, whatever the case may be. I can't explain that. It's just who I feel needs the most immediate help.
Kind of look towards sites. So, are there any other questions that we feel like we should ask, or do we feel like we should speak in private to anyone?
No, I think maybe we let them go about their business. We've taken up plenty of their time and we appreciate, the time that you've given us today.
Thank you so much. Can I take some chicken home with me?
Yeah, yeah, they get you a Tupperware container.
Sam asks it just like that too. Can I take some chicken home with me? So, um, so as we leave, does the chief have any kind of questions or thoughts that he wants to pass our way?
I don't know. I just don't. I simply don't know how to handle this situation. I mean, we've already got a big crowd coming in. Hotels around the area are completely booked up. I don't know how that church is going to accommodate all the people that are going to be in there. It's going to be a fire code violation, probably, with however many people are going to be there. Now, they've cut off the locals from coming to this revival. They're saying that this is just going to be an outside kind of thing, inviting people in. So more than likely, we'll be able to accommodate as many as we can, but we're going to have a police presence outside to keep it from getting overfilled. Um, I mean, is anything illegal going on here? I mean, based off of what we see right now, everybody is here of their own accord. There doesn't seem to be any illegal activities going on. It doesn't seem like they're really charging people to come to this thing. It's all free will offering. But I mean, if this keeps going, it's just going to get bigger and bigger. And if people continue to join this flock, I mean, we're looking at about a dozen people so far. They all seem very devoted, and everyone there is kind of cutting ties to the outside world, which is the first inclination that a cult is starting. Now he's claiming there's no cult. He's allowed us to talk to him, which is usually against most cult leaders. They usually will probably try to separate their flock from any kind of authority figure. But they supped with us. They spoke freely. They were able to speak of their own accord. They were able to speak against us. They were able to speak for the pastor. But I don't know. I still just can't shake that we're on the cusp of something a lot bigger. And I've known the pastor for years. He's a good man. And I've known members of the flock, Jerome in particular, because he's a local, long enough to know that, Jerome's a good man. He's got his flaws, but he's a good man. But there's just something burning here that could get worse. And I just don't want that happening to our community.
Well, it's something I'm a little bit worried about too, just based off of our experience of the pastor after his previous healing. One healing took a lot out of him. It seems like if you're bringing so many people in, could he possibly do harm to himself by trying to accommodate more healing than, you know?
Well, now you're out of my purview.
Right.
And I mean, I know Jerome well enough to know that he certainly wasn't faking it. So, do I believe that this man has the power to heal the sick and the lame? I mean, I have evidence that he interacted with someone who miraculously overcome his disability. These other folks, I don't know so well. I only have the hearsay, and I only see the results of their current state of health compared to what some of them were before. Very few of these individuals that have taken up residence with uh, the pastor here on their property are from the area. So I do not have prior knowledge of what they were like before they came into the fold. So whether or not he legitimately healed them, I cannot say. All I have is what they state, and that's all I have to go on.
Mm-hmm.
We've dug into their medical histories as best we can from the counties where they are from, and they seem to legitimately have been diagnosed with certain diseases, certain maladies, etc. But nearly all of them have not gone back for further treatment after this. So unless we get confirmation of that, I can't honestly say that he's healed these people. But if he hasn't, then why all of a sudden are all of these people coming to him and then just taking up residence there and leaving their other lives behind?
Right.
That's what I can't explain.
Is there any chance the pastor's given a private number to be able to get a hold of him to us?
Not to you directly, but the chief has it.
Okay. Ask the chief for that number. Um,
Now, this is the number to the church, not to him directly, just so you know.
oh,
So
okay.
most likely you're going to have to either go through Deacon Thomas or Miss Morrow to get through to him, and they watch him like a hawk.
Mhm. Well, hopefully that can be accomplished. Um, all right. Well, thank you for being there with us. I think you were helpful to have present because you're the foot in the community. It's not just strangers showing an interest or concerns. So, um,
And I think with that being the case, instead of going into maybe another conversation with the pastor or anything else, opening up other investigatory stuff that we might get too deep into, I think since it's almost noon my time, we'll probably call it
okay.
for today and then pick it up. Usually I try to cram these into one, but We got in deep with some extra stuff there. So, but I like it because it really kind of expanded the mythology around this. So that's
Cool.
good. If it's all right, we'll just pick this up next time.
Yeah, I'm totally down for that.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I've had a great time.
All right. Well, good. Yeah. 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 Me too.